Hello, this is Brandon from Galaxy Stock Market. Today is May 2nd, 2026. It's approximately 8:55 a.m. as we bring you this markets look ahead and a weekend video. And the title is Stock Market is at all-time highs. What now? Folks, we are climbing the wall of worry, and we're going to be talking about what is going on, how long will this rally continue, and what are some of the things to look out for as we look for potential trend change, but we are still bullish in this market. Here's the disclaimer. Pause it, read it. If you agree, please move forward. And thank you all for following us on x.com/galaxy.market. Also follow, like, and subscribe, comment on YouTube. Thank you so much. All right, so here's really that everyone should be paying attention to. And a lot of people are blaming the rising fuel costs for the demise of Spirit Airlines. But this is a company that has been mismanaged and in great debt and did not get the bailout. And of course, it has ceased operations as of 3 a.m. Eastern Time today. And so it has gone bankrupt and shut down all operations. So another one bites the dust. Another canary in the coal mine as this market conditions and economy is beginning to weed out these weaker companies. And it also shows you that airline, which is a very low margin business, in a hyperinflationary environment where the consumers are tapped out, therefore we have stagflation. And these types of failures are going to continue. So another one bites the dust. And then the second one is now Trump is talking about taking over Cuba. And he is apparently sending over the USS Abraham Lincoln to do whatever he's going to do. But I believe it's another net asset acquisition for the United States as we prepare for a Chapter 11 style bankruptcy of our debt, which can never be paid back. And so it is a race to zero. I always talk about our currency. The reset is going to be basically related to printing as much money as you can and acquiring as much asset as possible, and then using that hyperinflationary base to either pay off the debt or default on it. And that's what United States is doing in a nutshell. I'm not going to go into full details. But, it's Venezuela first, and he secured oil in Iran. By the way, that war is not over, and we'll see in the next slide. Okay. Donald Trump is informing Congress that U.S. military operations against Iran has ended. Notice the word that U.S. military operations against Iran having ended. This is because there was no formal declaration of war by Congress. But the president can get away from this by claiming that, okay, all the hostilities are over, and so they have neutralized, quote-unquote, Iran. And if the shooting begins again, this allows him to not have or require a congressional declaration of war to continue on this crusade against Iran, so to speak. All right. I just wanted to talk about cryptos, especially XRP. Money system change is happening. However, a lot of people are getting a little antsy about the fact that there's been no price appreciation, and the cryptos as a whole have been pretty hammered this year. But this is the time that you want to get it. You do not want to get XRP when it's at 1,000. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow or next year. We don't know what's going to happen. We do know that XRP is the rails in which the global new monetary system will run. It's not just a cross-border payments mechanism. This is going to take over the next wave of digital currency in the future. Okay. So let's talk about really quick, what's coming up. And the markets are extended, no doubt. Okay, and a lot of the bearers are basically getting their butts handed to them. Trying to, short at every single new highs. Last week it was 7,200 on the ES, and this week we took out the 7,300. And it doesn't mean that the markets aren't going to be choppy or volatile or have some moments of scary moments, but it's going to continue to climb the wall of worry. And, you're going to see a lot of the bears just saying, oh, God, how can this be? It is what it is, especially in a market where we're printing money to oblivion, in a hyperinflationary market where we're just dumping cash and printing money out of thin air. And this is what's going to happen. All the hyperinflationary assets are going to continue to hyperinflate. Okay? So we're climbing the wall of worry. So what do we have in terms of technical analysis? And we're going to go over some of these charts and look at what the gamma exposures look like going forward for the stock market. Okay, let's quickly go over the McClellan Summation Index. And McClellan Summation Index has clearly been pointing to a downward decline in momentum. So this is warning us the market is toppy, and that the balance of power in terms of the net institutional positioning is becoming slowly but surely more bearish. Okay, even though the market is hitting higher, but this does not mean that the markets can't climb the wall of worry. We just need to have our spidey senses up about the potential market turns and whatever that may be. And so for those of you looking at this market, yes, we are reaching the top. However, markets can continue to go higher and higher and higher, just confounding all logical sense. But so we'll just go along with the flow. However, McClellan Summation Index is warning of not an imminent, but in short time. My psychoanalysis tells me that we are probably going to have probably a corrective phase coming towards the end of May through the first week or two of June. Okay, so this is what it's setting up. Right now, there's really no signal. We're still in this area, but market is turning on the McClellan Summation Index. Okay, so let's look at SPY, and this is S&P 500, and we're basically wedging higher, and we're at this all-time high, just pushing up against that upper band of the Bollinger Band. There's nothing really wrong with this RSI. Relative strength is confirming this move, so we're just going to follow along. There's really no significant divergences when we look at the MACD. We definitely have a bullish cross, and so we're just going to continue on with that. Okay, and we're looking at CCI. Obviously, it's completely overbought at this point, but we can continue on at these overbought conditions in a sideways fashion as the market moves higher, as was evidenced by all of these. So we're just starting here. We're probably going to get some market chop along the way, but I think the market is going to continue to move higher based on these levels. We just got to be on the lookout on the back of our minds for a potential change, so that we're mentally ready to take advantage of that changes in direction. But I think we're moving higher, at least temporarily, but it's not going to be going up in a straight line. Okay. Stochastics, obviously, we're in overbought territory, but we're just still continuing to chop higher. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's no divergences here. And on top of all that, my favorite, PPOADX, I mean, look at this. We got the bullish crush. We're moving higher, folks. Okay, and then let's look at silver. And I said, hey, look, be on the lookout for silver. And I believe we are kind of starting making the lower highs. And with the COMEX situation, where there's open interest is just completely gone, and they're desperately reducing margin rates. Remember, they hiked that margin rates to control silver from breaking out from these levels. Okay, now the problem is that everybody's lined up for delivery for physicals that were holding these contracts, and they're panicking because they don't have it in their vaults. And I think the world has moved on. They're moving on to Shanghai and Singapore, and just this whole fractional fiat money reserve old guard systems are falling apart one by one as we usher in the digital currency era. But silver is setting up. It's going to move significantly higher starting next week. And then gold, obviously, same thing, same situation. We bottomed right at this support level. We're making lower highs. We got a positive divergence. Okay. The MACD has been a little bit negative, okay, and but that is to be considered as we're the market is super bearish right now. Again, COMEX situation, keep an eye on that. And, just right now, we're just climbing the wall of worry. We have the stochastics bearish on gold, but it's bullish on silver. So take that. But we're going to be moving higher. We'll probably chop around here, but we're going to significantly be moving higher on gold and silver. Okay, get it while people don't want it. And also, COMEX has reduced the margin rate. So the options on these futures contracts are relatively cheap right now. And so are the physicals. Don't be looking to go when we start breaking out above 121. Above 121 on silver and above 5,500 on gold, we're going to be off to the races again. And if you don't think that can happen in a relatively short period of time, then you're not looking at the right chart. Next thing, let's look at AVGO. I continue to remain bullish on AVGO. There's nothing wrong with the RSI. It's bullish. We're hitting at the top end of the Bollinger Band, kind of stalled out, but I believe we're going to move higher. Okay, so that's that on AVGO. And then United Healthcare has been a beast, but we are now beginning to approach this, the pivot level. But I think we are targeting, so expect some volatility here up and down, maybe come back down into the ADMA and then push towards this 200 SMA. Okay, this 200 is still inverted, still in a bearish position, but we are breaking out from that level. Everything is bullish on United Healthcare. We remain bullish on United Healthcare. And then, of course, Tesla, broke out of the, negative downtrending RSI. Now we just have a positive correlation. We finished above this 50-day moving average. There's a 20 SMA that it needs to get above. We tried it a few times. Once it breaks above, and I think it will, we'll start heading towards the 482 upper Bollinger level. Not in one day, but that's what's happening. I mean, if you look at the entirety of the MACD is about to have a crossover. We got the positive divergence on the histogram. We broke out on the CCI from the downtrend, and then we're now establishing an uptrend right into this area. Okay. I mean, what's there not to like? I mean, we got stochastics that is starting to be positive. PPO-ADX is a nice positive crush. The next one that I'm looking at is apparently AutoZone. And AutoZone, yeah, it's an auto parts, things, but people are strapped and they're broke, but they can't buy new cars, and they're not going to buy more updated used cars. So what they're going to do is they're going to continue to use AutoZone to repair their cars. Now, it's been on a downtrend, and it keeps rejecting off of this downtrend level. But I think if we can find support here, it's one thing to keep an eye on at this 120 and then ADMA. It's bunched up. If you can look, the ADMA is curling higher. So if we can break above this 50 SMA and this downtrending line, I think it's very fair to say that at the very least, it's going to start challenging this 3870 level, maybe get up to this resistance, which is right up into this area. Keep an eye on AVGO and do your due diligence, right? And then, of course, Adobe is a recovery play. Everything looks like there's a positive divergence, and we're basically, dancing below and above this ADMA. And we finished this week above there. And therefore, I think we're going to start targeting the 20 SMA into the 50 SMA. Why not? Everything is going higher right now, right? So that's what I have. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about where the gamma sits. I do want to remind everybody that there was a significant bearish positioning on the QQQs after the market closed, just shortly after. And these are not some small slouch things, but they've been hitting the SPY May 5th, right? 719. So, we got the SPY 718s, and so on and so forth. Okay, but what I want to really talk to is where the gamma sits. Okay, so where are we headed for next week? And if you look, I mean, it's unmistakable, right? This is where we closed, and the maximum MVC, okay, most valuable contract, is sitting right around this between 7,350 to 7,300 close to 400, 7,400. So it's between this level and this level that's going to happen. However, these can also act as a gamma wall. All of these consolidation. So, obviously wait and see if this is not a overhead resistance. If that's the case, then we're moving lower. We're going to start targeting on the SPX 7200 and these negative gammas that are being formed. Okay, so that's been the case all week long. The other thing is the volatile net drift of premiums. Okay, we saw this net drift on the premium of the calls coming down while the puts they're about to meet. If they cross over, okay, there's going to be at least a short-term opportunity to get into a short-term shorting scalp and then reverse, because we still have these big, huge gamma exposures at these levels for next week. Okay, and then of course when we look at May 8th, I mean, look at all of these levels, but these can be acting as a gamma wall. Okay, especially right here. If we can't get over the 7,300 level, it's going to be a significant issue. So then the next target, obviously, if we break down here, is all the way down to 7,200. By the way, there's about a 50-point differential between the ES and the SPX. Now, the only striking odd thing is SPX is at 7,200, but if you look at the ES structure, okay, all right, we hit our level at the 7265. We hit 7,300 briefly. Now, the question is this just a temporary pullback, or are we going to get significant resistance where it has to pull back pretty sharply before building energy to move higher? And we're already at 7247. So that's something to keep an eye on, folks. I mean, it's something that we need to know. But also, there is a little bit of a discrepancy. So we're already at that 72.45 in the after hours. So it could be very possible that we're going to start getting into that 71.50, 7100 level on Monday, and then they'll just buy it back up. And that's been the trend. So we're going to stay with the trend. Okay. So what's in store for us for Monday, May 4th, right here? Well, as you can tell, the MVC is right here. And usually when the price shifts here, we're probably going to revert to the mean back in below the 7,200, right around 7,200. But again, as I noted, there's this guy right here. And I think realistically, we're going to probably push into that 7150 level potentially. But it doesn't mean that we're going to start crashing and everything. But this is the way the market's been behaving. You just got to take advantage of this. Now, the other thing that's telling us that's probably likely the case is that we had a call and the puts basically invert on each other on the drift. Okay, so is it more likely that we're going to start testing down into these levels? It's possible, but we got all of these MVCs forming up into this area. Okay, we just got to get over this level and then got to get over this. Right now, this is the gamma wall for us. Okay. So where are we in terms of the markets? I mean, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, we had these little pullbacks, and then we move higher. I do believe, though, the markets are kind of at that top end. McClellan Summation Index is rolling over right now. So let's see what happens. At the very least, I think we get a little bit of a pullback that's probably buyable somewhere between here. And if it gets a little bit more impulsive, we're going to start targeting the 7,000 level and then start moving higher again. Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin is on an uptrend, folks. I mean, it's not breaking out, but it is on an uptrend. So all of these crypto traders and investors are very, very frustrated. Because it just hasn't taken part of the rally. But I think they're doing that on purpose anyways. So at this point, just keep an eye on it, accumulate. Not financial advice, but that's what I think is going to happen. We almost hit 110 on the oil. We pulled back slightly. We'll see. We'll see what that Iran situation is that I don't think the war declaration is over. I think we're going to continue to chop around here until that situation is completely resolved. Gold, we bottomed here, and as I talked about, and I made a post, we have a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders forming here, right, folks? Inverse head and shoulders. You see it? So then what we see is a situation where if we can get above these overhead resistance right into this area, then yeah, it's off to the races. Ultimately, we do need to break 8250 on silver. We need to break 4900 for us to get any meaningful rallies going on. And patience is a virtue. This is not a safe economy. The economy is basically the fractional reserve banking, the economy, based on that, is crumbling. It is being replaced by a new digital monetary system. I've been pounding that on the table, and hopefully people are listening. VIX, we hit 1644. I think that basically it'll try to regain this 18 to 19 level, but I think we're just going to chop sideways until the next phase of corrective phase comes. I just don't think we're there yet. Okay, and here's SPY and QQQ. I'm not going to get into it. What I do want to talk about is the dollar. Dollar has been on a downtrend. It is a race to zero, and we peaked below this critical inflection point, 97.995. Post-Fed, I think it's basically fair to say that the inflation is not under control. I don't know where they get their 2% mandate, but we're moving higher on the 10-year yield. That's a function of printing money out of thin air, folks. And a fractional reserve banking system is coming to an end, and I stand by that. I've been talking about this for so long. If we have extended markets, McClellan summation index is rolling over, so just be on guard. But we are climbing the wall of worry, and the great reset in financial system and money system is coming or happening as we speak. So the reset is continuing. We're climbing the wall of worry. We hit 7,300 on ES and 725 on SPY. Last week is 7,200, and we were flirting around with 715, and we took that out. Is there any reason to believe we can't go any higher? I think if you look at our gamma exposure, I think eventually, by the end of the week, we're probably going to start hitting that 7350 to 7450 level, 730 on SPY. Iran war over to, declaring that it's over is to reset for that 60 days of presidential powers of war. He's going to keep doing these ceasefires and then say, well, see, we're not shooting at each other. So, and then Iran's going to probably launch some missiles again or sink something, or they're going to let it happen. So President Trump could continue to do what he wants without congressional approval. Monetary system reset is happening. War is just a distraction. So is Iran's situation really over? No, it's not over. This is just a reset so that the people in Congress basically, I'm not going to get into that. It's just to circumvent their objections. Okay, let's put it that way. Watch silver and gold. Cryptos are moving higher. It's going to be moving higher, but you got to get them while it's cheap. Got XRP? Yeah, you need to get them. Markets climbing the wall of worry. Earnings watch, AMD, SMCI, big one right here. I don't know what they're going to lie about, or if not, we're going to find out more about their smuggling case, and also maybe, I doubt it, but we'll get some insight into their accounting woes. MicroStrategy, keep an eye. I think Bitcoin is about to start moving higher, and that's good for MicroStrategy, but they're reporting earnings this week. So any type of pullbacks, if we get one, it's buyable because I think this is moving higher eventually. Palantir, big deal. This is a big one, and keep an eye on that one. I'm not really sure yet, but I know it's going to be big. The way it's set up, we need to watch that. We're watching Adobe, though, for stocks, BKNG and United Healthcare, and we're still watching the banks. We haven't forgotten about them. Okay, they're wobbling, folks. Stocks are at critical levels, but, do not get too bearish, and we're climbing the wall of worry. And, in this situation, market's going to be more irrational, more longer than you can remain solvent. But that's all I have for you today. Follow me at Galaxy.Market. Like us, share us, and above all, comment good and bad, and subscribe to YouTube. If you want to find out working with me, how to work with me, you got to email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com. Schedule a consultation. And also, you want to basically join our community. Click on the description or on profile if you're on X, and click on that little link, $49. It's basically, you get my market commentaries every morning, and as things develop, some chart analyses, and then whatever we are looking at as a group on the watch list that gets updated real time and also once a week at the very least. All right, so that's all we have for now. Be careful out there. We're climbing the wall of worry. Don't get suckered in. Don't be too trigger happy. Patience is a virtue. Bye-bye.